Dear Alok, welcome to our Being CEO Ready webinar masterclass series. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to take a moment and introduce you. I think it'll take me much more than a moment to introduce you, but welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You are our first guest on this series. So in the annals of history, when it will be written that there were more women getting ready to be CEO, Bagggel Foundation played a role where Dr. AlokNath Day, well, there he was, supporting the cause and being the champion of being CEO ready and helping them understand and have a dialogue on the technological aspect of that, how critical technology is. And that's what we'll be discussing today. Let me share. I can't share everything, but I'll be happy to put that on the conversation. Dr. AlokNath Day is the founder of Cyber Physical Systems Initiative, CTO of Xtron Solutions, and executive coach of the CTO Leadership Masterclass. He has been the corporate vice president of Samsung Electronics, South Korea, and chief technology officer of Samsung India. He is an adjunct professor in Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and IIT Jodhpur. There are many more academic positions that that Dr. AlokNath Day holds. He also holds a PhD from McGill University, Montreal. He's an ME from IISc Bangalore and a BTech from the distinguished is a distinguished alumnus of IIT Kharagpur. Dr. Day is also chairman of Ministry of Electronics and ET, which is called METI. He's the chairman for the National Steering Committee for Technology and ICT for Agriculture and Environment. He's the recipient of Alexander Graham Bell Prize in Canada. He has received many other accolades and is extremely well decorated. He's a fellow of IEI and IETE. He is also the fellow and a governing council member of Indian National Academy of Engineering. He's very passionate about exploring the research to revenue linkage deeply, and I think that's something that the entire industry is passionate and learns immensely from Dr. Day's experience. Very important, he has 50 plus patents under either process, either they are filed, granted, and he has many innovative products to his career graph. With his leadership and under his leadership, Samsung India touched 7,500 patents cumulatively in their Jubilee year, 25th year. The company also received National IP Award multiple times from the Government of India for highest number of patents that are filed for grants. Recently, he has co-edited a book on 6G mobile wireless networks. We have barely understood 5G with Springer and has contributed to many other books and chapters on key technological domains. Extremely interesting and relevant to our today's session. One of his accolades, decorated honors is in 2022, he was cited in world's top 50 CTOs, and his R&D and business interest is in cyber physical systems with underlying technologies of augmented intelligence and how do you make secure IoT. Through Samsung Ventures and also as an angel investor, he has invested in 36 to 40 startups in India. You can explore Dr. AlokNath Day, follow him on LinkedIn, but we are extremely privileged, honored, and humbled to have him on our Being CEO Ready Masterclass, where we will unravel the use, the importance, and the criticality of technology in a CEO's life. So Dr. AlokNath Day, we'll fondly call you Alok. Once again, welcome, and I'm ready with my questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me in this fireside chat, Supria. And it's a premier show, so I think it's my honor and pleasure to join you. And also, I like what Bagggel Foundation you have been doing, empowering women leaders, being CEO ready. So two things together, less than, I think, 5% of CEOs would be women. I'm not sure on the figure, but it will be lesser numbers. So it's a quite challenging exercise and what you have embarked on. So I really appreciate your initiative and also inviting me to be here.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you so much. And we're also joined fondly by our Bagggel members. Thank you, each one of the members, for joining in. We will continue the fireside chat. We will have a few questions, and the answers are going to be far more interesting and revealing with insights. And we will open for Q&A in about 45 minutes from now. Alok, with over more than 3 decades of experience and largely in technology, what have been some of the significant milestones in your career to date?
Yeah, it has been, I guess, 32 years of corporate life. 22 bachelor, 24 masters, 4 years of PhD, and 32. So I kind of retired in 22 December, I mean, quote unquote, retired from corporate life after attaining 60, and then started my own journey. So that's important, and we can talk more. But yes, what we have done, maybe three different angles. One is different types of companies that I've worked. When we graduated in 85 from Kharagpur, that time, I think Bharat Electronics, ITI, BHEL, these were the dream jobs. So that gave me some India experience for 2 years. Then I lived in Canada for 10 years for my PhD, but also continued working in Bell Northern Research, Northern Telecom. So that's a longer experience that gave a North American flavor. I continued with Hughes, a bit of US, part of India. That is the migration time when I came back. And then later, ST Micro and Ericsson, they gave me an European flavor. Lots of countries that I could travel and work with all the European, at least 8 or 10 of the countries in Europe through that journey. And lastly has been Samsung South Korea, that's back in Asia. So it has given me a wide flavor of cultures and experience, and obviously the technology. So even technology-wise, today we talk about, make in India, but in 85, when I was working in BEL under Ministry of Defense, the first assignment we got is effectively, there was Russian radar and French radar, and can we make an Indian radar? And we designed an Indra radar, which is a low-flying target detection radar. And 3-4 years back, I was checking what is the status of that, and it was very surprising to see some of them are still there in the Border Security Force, Indra 1 radar, and then subsequently Indra 2 that came by the Air Force. So software, subsequently hardware boards, telecom, satellite, chip design in ST Micro, DSP, in Hughes, telecom, whole gamut of things, and later in cloud connectivity. And I finished with AI and IoT together. So that has been my tech journey. And in particular, I think product-wise, I already talked about first product is always going to stay in your mind. Your question is some milestones. So that has been like a Make in India and 20 different boards and RF tubes and things like that. So that's one side. The other side of it, the more recent one in Samsung, is the Galaxy series. And when I joined Samsung, it was more about fast followerships. That's how Samsung was known. Other places it's happening, but we were able to catch up very quickly. I'm talking about S2 phones, S3, S4, Galaxy S series. But if you look into recent ones, they're not fast followership models. There are lots of innovations when you did phablets, the notes, the pens, the stylus that came, the foldables. I think we have led the way. So that transformations from a fast followership to going into an innovative drive, I think I have cherished, and that's a lot of contributions that we could make.
Outstanding. What a stellar career, Alok. It is spanning almost every conceivable country or a continent that one can think of. It has generations of technologies. It has a wonderful flavor of Make in India. And I'm so happy you went back and checked, and the Indra radar is still there, and a lot of them deployed at Border Security Force. That must have been a moment of pride, right?
Yes, absolutely. I actually revisited BL in that context. Yes.
Awesome. I remember there was a GE Bell joint venture that I had the fortune of being a part of in 1999. Yes, in Bangalore. Very interesting. We always talk about, Alok, as to how where we go to study is sometimes more important than what you study. There is so much focus, and in your cases, I'm sure both where you study and what you study. But with such prestigious, great academic institutions like IIT, IISc, and McGill University, what do you think these universities and the curricula that you studied, how have they influenced your professional journey?
I think definitely, they set a standard, and, we all know about them. So obviously, all the work that we have been doing, it's a learning from there. Obviously, you continually learn, but nonetheless, the seeds are from there. But even I'll go back, and my school days, secondary and higher secondary, I studied in Ramakrishna Mission. And the whole power of discipline, I would think that, sustainable way of operating every day, going through a rigor, that's something I picked it up from my school and college days. And obviously, then IIT, IIC, they give you the edge of technology. But two things again: a high standard, a rigor, and the networking of friends and the peer pressure. How do you live with that? How do you collaborate with them? How do you respect somebody? Not that you are the greatest. There are people. So if you can actually, when you are into that pool of people who are great, that association, as people always say, right? Average of 5 people that are around you sets you who you are. So that itself elevates, and I am very thankful to all my friends and colleagues and those who have worked with, right? So quality, and side by side, I've always have cherished a little bit of other learning. Like when I was McGill, it's a Quebec is French. So I studied French to speak whatever we could do, right?
Awesome.
When I was in IIT Kharagpur, I thought classical music, I'm not going to be a musician, but let me spend some time. So every Sunday I used to go and learn sitar. Then I came to Bangalore, and it was on purpose because Carnatic music, Hindustani Carnatic, again, just a connoisseur. I'm not playing anything, but I enjoy. And that's a sidewise learning that I have also cherished.
Wow. So a technology, passionate about technology, with yet so much humility and respect for soaking into the local culture. Alok, that doesn't leave me. Tell me a little bit more about that to say, this penchant for learning, which is very visible, also soaking in the culture a bit. There's always something there happening on the side. So tell us more about that side of Alok.
I think it's just, the curiosity of knowing people, knowing about food. I just traveled in Bhutan last week, and we did hiking. So being present there, appreciating the people, whatever they're doing, instead of being judgmental, I think we would live life very nicely if we kind of abstain from that and just get into that mode of whoever is doing what, as long as you feel right. I mean, there is a moral value sets. I'm not saying crossing that, but I'm just saying otherwise you just enjoy. I mean, you don't have to too much think the consequence and how it will help me in life. Not everything is like that. Just being present and being respectful and curiosity to learn, I think that always helps.
Beautiful, beautiful. These are nuggets of life that you've shared so beautifully and just so simply. It's just like a breeze through. Stay curious. Love that. Love that. Sign of a great leader. But I think a lot of humility and respect. And I love this because we are talking about it in this context where we're discussing a CEO's life, and there is so much conversation on how they are responsible with their first teams and creating a culture of inclusive, creating a culture of belongingness. And definitely when we talk with respect to women, how do you make sure they feel included and belonged and equal, equitable systems and free of judgment. We all come with biases from where we come. But I think it's our responsibility to keep shedding them from time to time and becoming a better person. Alok, you just personify that for us beautifully. Thank you for that. I want to spend the next few minutes talking about cyber physical systems. That's your initiative. Could you tell us as to what led to you forming this? What was the journey like? And what is the big goal that you are envisioning here?
So one of the thing is, if I would take the recent one in Samsung, obviously the communications that we have started working 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, different companies, but the 6G book that we wrote. So it's a kind of continuation of that. Also on the other side, we did my PhD thesis was on speech communication, audio, video, multimedia. So that's another stream. So these two have been coming quite naturally to me.
Mhm.
What I wanted to do while Samsung as a leader, corporate VP, and all these responsibilities is to also create something additional that is not there. These are nurturing. There are other leaders. So you'll have to take to the next level. This is where we initiated AIoT, and we wanted to create a center of excellence in Bangalore itself, AI plus IoT combinations. But I also realized that as a global VP, we could do much more than just our center. And even to establish, sometimes we have this challenge in MNCs. If you are fully here, then how are you plugged it into the overall decision-making system, right?
Yeah.
So I decided, I approached my global CEO that I need to travel. I'm okay to travel every month. So he gave me permission to 7 to 10 days spending in Korea and rest of the time in India. And so pre-COVID, I did that. I don't know how many times, 55 travels every month
Oh my
to
God.
Korea. Yeah. So that was my whole idea that if I get plugged in there, I will be able to learn, be part of the decision making, solve problems, come back here, implement, and grow India Center. I mean, growing India Center has been the objective for all of the people, even for corporate, but in a rightful way. And in the process, I also pick up a lot. I mean, it's a lot of work, travel, family, everything, but you said it. So we did that quite responsibly, and I created an AIoT platform, what Samsung calls Smart Things. Obviously, there are many other leaders, so I don't want to take all the credit for myself. It's a big team that we work, but the data platforms and some of the things that we have done on the device front. So since that has been a good learning and moving forward, I moved your question on cyber physical systems. It's the same thing. IoT is one way of saying, but CPS. Why I say CPS, and it's a little reset in the mind, not continuing the same work. But CPS also brings in business, because now that we are starting this company and growing, so my whole idea was different technologies that are there, can I apply into a business verticals?
Sure.
And tech, you already mentioned Métis and health tech or mobility techs. We have chosen few such verticals where the same AIoT or device with the cloud, basically you have a physical world of sensors and you have a cloud and the cyber world. So how do you combine that and make sense in business? So that way you retain the technology and you also get into the business and provide certain services. So that's my kind of direction in the cyber physical system.
Outstanding. I want to take a moment, Alok, and ask you a follow-up question here. When we are looking at CEO's world, we're looking at obviously his ability to, or her ability to lead business. And then we are looking at obviously where do you can take your existing products and add new revenue, obviously, and bring that. You can take the existing product to other countries, different, you can also add new products. And then of course you can take new products. And this is the 2x2 that we've all grown up with. The technology plays a very critical role today to say how that, when infused, leads to magic in the business. What would have been your, I would say, areas of strength to pick up which technology is going to grow, and therefore how is that going to help the business by leaps and bounds? What has been your journey on picking these? Because obviously you've had an excellently successful career, so you've done that very well. What's the mantra you'll share with us?
No, I think it's partly what you are exposed to, what you have been experiencing with. That is an important part. You can go into different directions. I'm sure even if we wanted to become doctor or lawyer, we could have become. But once you have chosen to be engineer and then telecom or electronics and then going around, so that binds itself a little bit. You can go out, but it's good to continue into that if you have been enjoying. Now, there are things that are emerging, and for next-gen leaders, they could be exciting. For example, quantum communications, quantum computing. But I'm personally not spending time, given in the life stage where you are in, and what you want to achieve. But for the younger generations, I would say that's exciting. If you are, entertainment and gaming world, why cyber physical systems, but why not metaverse, right? So it can be very interesting, but you can be traversing. It might be fun to get lost in a metaverse world and find your maze path to come out. I mean, that can be interesting work and development and experience. But I thought, for myself, it's these 5 things that I have picked up over time, not that mastered, but we can continue to learn. One is an AI that brings an augmented intelligence. Everything we are trying to make intelligence. Second is IoT that brings the sensor, and it's an integration of technologies, proximity level connections, Bluetooth, RFID, very close by people can communicate. It's a way to connect the devices, not just people. Then the blockchain, which we have worked and initiated. In fact, our team in Bangalore initiated a lot of blockchain activity for Samsung globally. And that brings the traceability, that brings a decentralization way of operating. So that's a third piece. Then the communications, I call it B5G, maybe 6G is yet to come. But anytime, anywhere connectivity, that's an important communication. And the last piece where we are picking up more and more is the robotics, because when you have an intelligence and you are trying to take an actions, many a times we can't reach to a place, disaster prone or maybe a difficult terrains and things like that. A robotic arms or manipulators could be very, very helpful. In fact, in Métis's work in agriculture, the apple harvesters, to pluck apples. We have a project in Kashmir, in Shere Kashmir University, where we are using these robotic arms to pluck.
Awesome.
So these are 5 different technologies I have kind of kept it in my portfolio. And then how do I apply these? One is a theory, but you can only do that much theory. But can I then apply to agri-tech? And we are doing grassroots level work, even, for example, chickens in the poultry, DPR in Aikar in Hyderabad, when the chickens are born, it's a very manual exercise to segregate them male and female. But in a day's time, their voice changes. So we have done a vocalization techniques that the chickens will pass by through a train, and there will be a situations without too much scare, but they will make a noise. And that sound classifications will segregate them as a male, female, and some cases may be doubtful. And this is a successful project. And so my point is, the sensors, IoT, we talk big things and there are theories, but there are very grassroots level, interesting problems that are there. So I'm enjoying that part of the story.
Very interesting. Oh my God, thank you. We are learning so much on this, and I totally love that. And I love the way you say it without scaring them. You just encourage the voice to come out, and then, of course, segregate them. And I'm very curious to hear more to say, when you say when in doubt, so what happens then? What happens to those when in doubt?
Basically, we can't for sure know who it is. Then we separate them, and then we do that 20% maybe manually. Rather than confusing everything, it's better to get the certainties separated. Awesome. And then uncertainty is dealt with manual way. That's much better than 100% doing it, right?
You are totally enjoying yourself. This wasn't part of the question that we discussed, but
life is all about that, enjoying yourself.
Awesome, Alok. I'm totally energized and inspired, and I hope our members are enjoying it too. This is brilliant. Is there any out of these 5 technologies? I'm just curious to say, though each one of them have their place under the sun. There's an application, of course, that will get. Is there anyone you'll bet on more, and why?
I think AI needs to be studied. I mean, a lot of time goes in understanding. It's a complex subject. It's very interesting. It's technologically interesting, but Is it for consumers? Is it for fun? Is it getting too much into human replacements and all of these? It's very complex topics.
Sure.
So even the dilemma comes in mind that how much to pursue. On one hand, we are engineers and we love doing next steps. But where do you apply? I think this is where other side of it that we are trying to spend time. Yes, it can be complex technology built by you or somebody else, but when you apply, is it making sense? And where is it? And what's the harm? And things like that. So always that ethical angle, what we talked about. So I'm also bringing, we may not be experts in that, and we might not be able to do it 100%, but wherever possible, is there a compassionate way, humanitarian way, a human-centric way, or the animal respects? These things also we're trying to bring into the equations as much as possible. But yeah, I would pick up, other things will come, they will steadily grow. But this is the time, this 2-3 years, we need to figure it out. And there is a hype, and it will bring definitely a lot of benefits, but we need to segregate what's right, what's wrong. So currently, next 2-3 years, more on AI.
More on AI. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. This almost leads beautifully. It leads us into our next segment that we would love to discuss, being CEO ready and how important the role of technology is for a CEO. We have a wonderful foundation, and no better than you, I think, to talk about to us on that. What advice or insight would you give to CEOs to say, there's always a debate, Alok. CEO needs to be technology-led, an engineer, or probably an MBA. You've seen it in your career. I've seen in my career. MBA is background leading, technology, engineering background, CEOs. Of course, when I say MBA, it could be finance-led largely, and sometimes marketing. But those are two functions I have seen. Marketing, when I say more sales-led. But today we talk about technology led, and even whether a CEO has that background or not, but it's extremely important to be absolutely in touch and on par with that. So what do you think a CEO needs to do to...
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I would not get into what should be the minimum qualifications or qualifications, but definitely today, I think most of the business are becoming tech imbibed in some way or the other. Tech is pervasive into everything. So a familiarity on the tech, a certain tech quotient is an important for everybody. But I think coming back to your point of, it doesn't have to be tech-led leadership or tech-driven. I'm a little careful on these words, because as soon as we put that, it looks like this is the dominant, and then you solve problem, or somebody has told you, you must apply this, otherwise this is not a solution. So we don't want to see that way. It should be more tech-enabled, or even better is if tech is a magic tech subsumed. It's like underneath, but solution doesn't need to show up into so acutely a presence of a tech. So tech or no tech, I would think that CEO has their goals, right? Even before so much of tech, they have the products to be sold, they have the process to be improving, they have a business model to define. I don't think that changes. To me, those are the parameters should be continuing, because that's at the end, you have a concept and you are implementing. Now, while implementing, earlier, possibly you didn't need to bother too much of what else exists and if a tech exists.
Sure.
That's where there is a change, because while implementing, if you do a manual and simple thing as if you are doing an Excel sheet and using it versus somebody else is using other tools, that makes a difference in terms of either it makes it time efficient, it makes it cost effective, it makes it consumer experience rich. It's reaching to the consumers could change. You could monitor better. You could do data-driven decisions analysis. So therefore, I think it's these factors, which is next level. Your primary goals are still, as I said, product, process, business models and things. But when you come to the next level, possibly if you're using tech or not using tech, there would be a difference. Somebody will move faster, better, other ways. This is where I think is very, very important. So the implementation part, I would say, and more more tools you have with you. Now, when I say CEO cannot know everything, right? And that's not the purpose in life. I mean, anybody for that matter. Sure. Even if you want to do AI, IoT, blockchain, 5 technologies, you can't do it, right? Let's not fool ourselves. Sure. So you will rely on a set of people and experts in these. Maybe CEO has to do a bit more on the team. And that's why the CTO role exists, or a CIO role exists. Who knows more of the technology? But I think the important part of CEO is that mindset has to be there, not to be afraid of, not to be ignoring it, not to give value to this, not to decide not to hire a CTO where it's required. That would be a mistake. But once you have done and you have empowered and you are working with them and you spend a little time to listen to them, at the end, you will be able to take the decision. CTO will give 3 choices, but you know what's best in the context of the business to take it. So it's that partnership that will work better. And you need to support, as CEO, your next set of people and spend some time to listen from them. That's what would be my.
Very well said, Alok. My God, it just resonates so beautifully. The core hasn't changed of a business to be profitable or do the right stuff and maximize that. I think the core objectives haven't changed. What probably has changed is the infusion of technology and leveraging technology for business gain. I think that's fabulously said. It almost sounds like a full chapter or a book in itself. I love that. The technology mindset, brilliant. Ability to prioritize and know that this is important. Of course, build that capability in your team. Love that. And of course, building capability, but also having that dialogue and knowing how and when to use that and flex that muscle and leverage the team. Brilliant, brilliant. So in a Being CEO Ready Masterclass, we have many, many nuggets. I think this absolutely is at the top of it. Going back now, you in your role of being a CTO and being at Samsung India, you were obviously, you're flourishing, you're doing so much. There's so much of capability that Samsung India and the worldwide teams have leveraged with your presence in leadership. Culture of innovation, if we were to touch on that, Alok, what were the key guiding factors? What led you to succeed so beautifully and help set a culture of innovation there? And like you said, I love that, fast follower to a great leader in making and leading by design. How was that transition?
Yeah, that's something. See, you cannot operate with too many objectives. I mean, you need something bigger. So when I joined in 2011, I spent a good 3 months, November, December, January, to understand the organizations, what is doing well, and where we can do it, but only one objective, right? You cannot have too many. I set only one objective and I worked 11 years with the same objective. I mean, no change. It's big enough. So effectively, I thought, Samsung is known for its patent, and we touched upon that. Globally, it has been always number 1 or 2 between IBM and Samsung. If you go back history, last 10 years, it will be 1 or 2, depending on years. So I thought that's happening. And even the team here has done reasonable number of patents, maybe in India. There are a few sets of people who understands that there is this bit of culture that has been there, even though it's in a corner, few products. So I thought that can be the lever to drive and to grow. Before that, I also didn't do too many patents, to be very frank. All those patents are in the, most of it, I mean, in the Samsung. Yeah, because the previous role was managing director in ST Ericsson. So that was more in the admin and the other parts of it, all the other faculties. That gave me an edge in operational style and leadership. Yes. But yeah, so I wanted to be this CTO and play that role. So that's what we thought, that let's bring that global into local. Let's set a big target. And I know 15 years have passed that time of Samsung here in India. And they have done wonderfully in terms of delivery. There's a lot of credibility in Korea's mind. So we need to keep that, not to touch that, and create a second peak, which is on the innovation side by side without jeopardizing that basic things that are going well, all the deliveries that are happening. Because if you start doing too much of a change, it gets affected and you don't know whether you'll be successful in the other, and what does that mean even as a success. So therefore, I wanted to make this very parallel, seamless, quiet, nobody knows, but it's happening underneath. And we set a target that 7,500 patents, which is like 3-4 times of what we were doing. But we thought we can do it. And through that, whether it is center of excellence, whether it is new technology that we want to bring, whether it is new product development, anything that we do, always we kept this in the mind.
Wow.
The difficulty or the challenge is, how do you scale? Like your question is, so only few people are doing and few products. So same drivers, if you keep it, it doesn't grow. Like you can't scale up just by few people, right? So we wanted to make sure every year end we review and find some new ways of growing this, whether it is product, whether it is new sets of people and things like that. And that went wonderfully. And I can just tell towards the end, I met the commitment, and we did that for last 2-3 years. And I just checked a few days back. So I said, don't change, please continue. That's a big thing. We gave a commitment that any freshers that join Samsung in 3 years' time, not all, 80% of them will become co-inventor in 3 years' time.
Awesome.
80% of them, 3 years, they will be co-inventors. And we made this metric. So we suddenly got lots of people and the energy, and this young crowd, they have lots of ideas. And, that's how we could reach and scale it up. So I think that's part of it. And also you yourself participating and doing, because you can't stay away in the leadership. You can't just stay away and do such a big thing, which you are in yourself not part of it. So you needed to commit. And within travels, in the airport, calling, checking ideas, innovations, go there, review, it's fun.
You totally breathe it, Alok. And none of the conversation so far even looks remotely like you've been working. It's just as that so much of this word infused fun, your big broad smile, and this is almost the purpose. To me, it just lands at this is the purpose. You love technology, you love innovation, love the way you set up the big vision, and you said the goal didn't change. You worked at it, and just resilience, continually keeping that broader umbrella of 7,500 and meeting it and working towards it is just fascinating. Fascinating.
And team always needs some cheering up. That the government of India's, I think the IP award we got multiple times, and some Asia awards. I think for the team it's motivating, right? You need something as an incentive.
I also love the fact that you led it by example. There are leaders who will say, do this. I want you in office at this time. I want you to do this. I want you to stretch. I want you to collaborate. And yet we have seen sometimes cracks at the top. I've heard so many CEOs say, let's collaborate, let's do this. And you look at their first teams, cracking in their own dias, not talking in silos. I mean, and we all wonder saying, why? That's why we say that leaders need to walk the talk. A big congratulations and lots of respect to you for walking the talk and having a lot of patents filed yourself. They would love to work for a leader like you. And I love the fact, Alok, I want to take a moment and also highlight the way you inspired the young engineers to join and co-inventors. At Western Digital, when we ran an IP patents program, we were nowhere there on the scene, and we had audacious targets. We did similar stuff at a different scale, but we loved the fact we would tell them, join us as an engineer, in 3 to 4 years become an inventor, have a IP, patent to your name, and enjoy that journey. Help us build a legacy and build it for yourself. And I think those things resonate with the next generation because they are buzzing with ideas, and I think channelizing that is brilliant. So thank you for sharing that. We're talking about so much culture of innovation. We're talking about excitement. We're talking about big goals and doing many things. If you were to take a moment and say, how has the impact of that been, Alok? If you take a few moments and talk to us about that, because the CEO will invest where he sees or she sees business impact. So how has in your journey, and both being an MD and then a CTO worldwide, how have you seen that play out?
No, this is very, very important. And this is where I think majority, kind of fails or struggles in that journey. Because once you get into this innovation, there is its own dynamics and momentum, and you can stray away from the original goal. And that is where I said the CEO's goal, the business metrics are still the same. So you need to reconcile from time to time. There will be a drift. It can't be perfect, but you need to bring it back to this actual goal of what's my next product? Where does it fit? Why am I doing? These are questions. If it's going out like certain new technology, like when we did blockchain, for example, then no product was there and we knew that. So we insulated, we declared to everybody that next 2 years, there's no product relationship. So it will be an explorations.
Excellent.
Because it's a new technology. So if it's a new tech, I think the CEOs who decide, is this a lot of people who have done, maybe new to you, but maybe others have done, then it's one story. See, I think the way to think is it completely new in the world, right? Are you embarking on that? Then it's a very crazy way of looking into things. And you can enter because your business needs this, right? And robotics or an autonomous car. So then that's one, that's a leadership. Second is you are doing new, but others have done, at least few of the others. Then there are some role models, some data points to study, talk to them, figure it out, some literature. Third is, world is doing, but you are catching up. Then, so these strategies would obviously be very, very different. It can't be same. So I think it's important for CEO to know where you stand in that. And if you want to do, like if you are too late, but you need it, then you go get an acquisition of a startup, right? I mean, that's a way to do. You don't have time to build it. By the way, we also created this startup fund from Samsung Ventures, and I could manage to do at least a dozen investments in India. And there is a strategic angle of fitment that happens. So that's also a good way. So it depends on whether you want to build yourself, then some POC, some prototype, and things like that you can do. And at the end, you will have those same metrics. How does it go into product? If it's not next year's product, will it go into the 2-year cycle or 3-year cycle? You can decide something will go immediately, 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year. But your end objective should be to take it to product. I mean, we are not in the industry to do something just for the sake of doing.
Absolutely.
Durations can be longer, but you have to have that target. And whether it goes or not, longer it is, there is uncertainty. That's also well taken. But you need to set that target, in my opinion.
Technology for business. That's what we are talking about. Absolutely. Thank you. While we are on that, the last part of that is, of course, you are making sure the CEO understands the technology, has the mindset, and comes from technology great, but need not, and make sure that the skill, the capability, and the experience is there in the team. And then, of course, you have the technology impact because you're doing it for the business objective, and therefore the enmeshment of that, the alignment and integration of that, then the impact. All of this, how do you make sure, how will a CEO make sure that the technology is strategic, is core to the strategic framework? What are some of the steps to do that?
Yeah, I think the way to think, we already talked about the metrics being same and the implementation part. But I think three sets of initiatives that CEO needs to keep in mind. One is the role of CTO. Okay, I mean, so you are building a product, and when I say CTO, it doesn't mean it's a CXO, but it can be a VP engineering or a director engineering, but somebody, or a chief innovation officer, depending on what you want to achieve.
Sure.
But effectively, it's for product evolutions and what's next, what's not. What is your charter globally? Not all MNCs are into the similar stage. Are you responsible for that, or is it some other center? So based on that, there would be a journey that would be there, and you should have that dialogue. And give a little leeway to embark onto new things. Those CTOs and others who need that space for a while. So you'll have to have the trust on the team and protect them a little bit from time to time to do it. So I think that's one. The other piece is the CIO's role, which we have not talked so much, but that's also an important, and again, it can be a director, IT, or whoever it is. But what they do is not on the product, but they enable product development environment. So you have your IT infrastructure, right? Or, you need to decide if you are doing an AI, how many GPUs to buy and what money will be there. Typically, CIO works with the CFOs. So CFO is doing the cost control.
Sure.
And can you not do it one less server, one less GPU? That's a dialogue, right? So that's a cost control part of it. And if you are investing, so it's a break, right? If I can say CTO as an accelerator, this is a break in the system, and both are important for organizations. So that's, again, whether to use a on-prem or go to a cloud or pay per use GPU to deploy or not. So that's a second piece of thing that's a strategic to provide environment for all the engineers that you have. And I'm assuming a bit of tech companies, but whatever it is, you need that infra. And the third thing, which was earlier not there, where CEO can directly play a role, is with the procurement, with the HR, with the corporate communications. This is where tech is entering, which was not a tech space by nature.
Sure.
You can do a recruitment with a robo part of it, if not fully, scheduling of it and things like that. In fact, this is where I think more disruptions are happening. And I think this is a space CTO or CIO is not involved. CFO will support it because it's a cost reduction.
Sure.
But CEOs need to bring in what new tools you can bring in to make it interesting for experience without scaring people, without monitoring too much, without data violations. But something interesting in the automations and these. So that's a third stream of tech that's little untouched or less touched. And there is room for CEOs to play there. It's excited to do that. I would think these are the things. Just to wrap up this question, I think the biggest challenge in CEO's mind is, so much of technology, even CTOs are grappling, and for CEOs, it's not, you might know this technology, but what is its implication? Do I take it right now? Do I do it later? What's its implication on the business? Doing it has its own implication. Not bringing in has its own implication. I think this is the toughest challenge in my mind that CEOs need to deal with, on top of all the normal stuff of governance. And I mean, I'm not counting them. But this is a new dilemma, and it's a complex one. And you have to rely on others to say, because you can't know everything. That is where I will say some struggle. And it's a fun to fight it out.
Awesome. That was my next question, Alok, that what keeps CEO awake at night with respect to technology? So you shared one challenge, which bet to take on, which technology to let go. Anything else? Anything you would add?
No, I think I would just sum it up again, following a tech trend, what's going on in some way to figure it out, understanding not the nitty-gritties of the tech, but what does it mean, and connecting to your business here and there. And then the third part, which is the most difficult part, now you'll have to take a decisions, hard decisions, to take it, to grow a set of people. Do you spend 20 people on that, or do you just explore with 2 people? Do you go outside? Do you do some entrepreneurship? I think that's the challenge part of it, I would think. You know.
Outstanding, outstanding. There are many books waiting to happen if you just continue to speak. Many books waiting to happen. And I promise you, I'll buy each one of them. There is this great program that you lead, which is Your Crest. I want to take a moment and have you talk to us about that on this platform. We would love for the entire universe to know about what is Your Crest all about, what's your vision, and what are you doing about it?
So thank you for bringing that in. Yes, I mean, after completing this tenure of Samsung, and I felt, many of these things, I mean, we are sharing the broader picture, but systematically bringing people up, possibly we can share with them. So with that in mind, last year, it has been now just a year, about to be a year, and we are doing the 6th cohort. We have done 5 cohorts, 2 in Bangalore, 2 in Hyderabad, 1 in Delhi, and the 6th one is happening in Bangalore on 26th, 27th July in Hilton. And it's a 20 hours program. So 2 full days, 8 hours each, very rigorous, I must say, because, case applications taking through. And then a follow-up sessions, a little bit of study and a follow-up session online a week later, so that they get a time to absorb a few things and we close properly with the right learning. So it's a 20-hour, and it's meant for aspiring CTOs because, I think India will also need leaders, tech leaders. I mean, everybody to be tech savvy, but a set of people will contribute, going deep into it and doing it. And so if somebody wants to be an architect or an expert or a master's or fellow or eventually a CTO and aspiring, then what is that path? We talk about tech ladders and things in many organizations. And I know some organizations have their curriculums and things, but what does it take? And with practical experience, with the guest speakers that I bring in, like this time, there is a speaker from Microsoft and Mahindra and Mahindra. So we are also combining. We had last time from ABB. So I think this is a set of people, and we talk about 3 different things. One, the tech. How do you stay ahead in the curve? How do you navigate? Today you are ahead doesn't mean tomorrow you'll be ahead. You can't take that for granted. Things change. So how do you keep your path and trajectory in the right directions? That's one learning. The second piece is, as I said, the business connect. I always feel that everything has to be connected to business. In fact, my tagline of CTO Crest is research to revenue. So this part that we establish, you are not the salesperson, but how do you enable salespeople? How do you understand customer needs, expectations, fold them into your product? So that's the second. And third thing, there is a misnomer that, if I'm individual ladder people, possibly many of the skills of interpersonal relationships are not required, but I feel it's more required than others. The reason is when people report to you, they're obliged to listen to you. When people don't report to you, how do you reach to them? Why should they come to you? What is it that you share with them that there's a pull factor that comes in? So whether it is decision making, whether it is critical thinking, influencing with others. So that's the softer part. I don't touch too much on communications, assume that's people are good at, but some kind of narratives in a shorter time frame, compact way of talking and things. So all of those skills, that you can think it of. So it's built on these 3 pillars, 20 hours program. And I would love if people, those who are listening here, if they themselves are aspiring or their team members, if they would like to join. So it's ctoleadership.com, CTO leadership, one word. ctoleadership.com. You can go and see the details. And it's on 26th, 27th July for this. And in particular, I'll make one request. Given that women community is there, one of my struggle has been to be able to get, whether it is attendees or the guest speakers, that participation. We are putting our effort, but I would love, again, this community, if anybody can spread it, join any way that you can help it. I'm happy to connect.
Absolutely, Alok. Congratulations on launching this fabulous. We need tech leaders. We need a lot of them, and we definitely need more women coming forward. We are very happy you're sharing the details, and thank you for leading it. We already see thumbs up. Nitya is all there. We've written that, ctoleadership.com. Please, if any of you, most of you want to join, please join. You want to have a speakership opportunity, have a chat with Alok. You want to take this program to your companies. Oh my God, you guys are all representing the top giants in Bangalore and in other places. Please go ahead and spread the word. We need a lot more women leaders coming forward. So please do that. This is must. And I think no better than Alok to educate, guide, teach, mentor. So I think let's make use of this program. Thank you, Alok, for sharing. We're almost on the close of this. We'll open it for the audience very quickly. We got lovely Bagggel members joining in. On closing, just the questions answer session, the fireside between you and me, I'm looking at saying what would be in an executive summary that we get so used to in our corporate lives. If you were to say in nutshell, what advice would you give to the CEO on being technology ready?
Yes, I think I have talked on various dimensions, how you should look into it, the challenges that are there. Like communication skills, like thinking skill, I would think that tech skills is a skill somehow, at that macro level. I'm not talking nitty-gritties, should be very natural to all people. So that's, I think, is the end goal. Technology quotient, the way we say IQ and EQ, I have a framework that I've built also on the TQ and a lot of questionnaires to grow and a level 1 to 5. And not everybody has to be 5. If you, 1 is a level of, can you run your ATM machines and get your money, right? I mean, that's the basic things can you do. If you can't do, then you are tech illiterate in that sense. So from there, we have built frameworks for that. So I would say that the tech quotient is a very, very important. And executive summary would be if you are in a legacy company, for example, cement industries, chemical, which has not been digitally transformed earlier, but now you are getting, then you need to grow that tech quotient a little bit more because that was not there and all other people don't know in the company. So you need to know a bit more to lead them. Whereas, if you are in a very tech company, probably you are overusing tech. So let's focus on the problem solving and let's make tech as a part of these. So not to undermine the value, but to not overemphasize in everything. Have I applied this or that? So at the end, it's a problem solving. So let's stay focused on the problem solving and whatever needs to be built, let's build, let's rely on others. Let's have a CTO, CIO, and even on that support systems, the tech invasion or the tech introductions, advent of the tech in the HR, particularly even procurement. That'll be nice things to study and take it forward.
Outstanding. I am totally inspired in how beautifully and simply you say it, Alok. Thank you so much. And it's brilliant. From the legacy, you obviously imbibe and lead by example and know a little more, but I love the way I haven't heard a person who's passionate about technology, subject matter expert on technology, breathes technology to ever say, I haven't heard that technology is there to solve a problem. Please don't make technology the end goal in itself. Overuse in itself. Check on that. Fascinating. Outstanding conversation. Thank you so much. We are open for question and answers. So members, if you could please, unmute, be on video. We would love to see you. And please Let's have a quick few questions for Alok. Nitya, Kavita, Amrita, Deepti, Jayanti, Samya, over to you guys. Kavita, Ananta.
Hi, Supria. Jayanti here. I had a question for Dr. Dey. Dr. Dey, thank you for the insightful comments, and Supria, it was a great conversation. So thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. Dr. Dey, you had mentioned that as the CEO and as leadership, we need to be selective while identifying the organization's tech charter and objectives. If you could throw some light on what part of this process tends to be, top-down, determined by the industry or by our peers, and what is the leeway that one generally has as management of the company to determine those objectives? That would be helpful. And how do you actually steer that conversation? That would be insightful. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think one of the important thing in the beginning, so, very quickly it comes down to tech. And again, I would say that when company is looking for a business to grow or a new product to be launched or a new customer needs to be fulfilled, I would say stay there particularly as CEO, stay there for a while, not getting too quickly into actions, because questions and answers we mix up too quickly. I mean, we think we know the answers and therefore we are too quick in getting into the things. I would say that, enjoy that moment and spread and think and ask questions simply why this customer needs. Sometimes it's devil's advocate, even though you want your blockchain technology to go, but you want it to be right. So therefore say, suppose I don't do this. It's a decentralized system. They are talking, can you use blockchain? I say, what's wrong with the centralized system? Challenging that a little bit, provoking, and then staying there and listening the question, oh, this we cannot do. Or I need this traceability because the agriculture food is coming from there and there is a pilferage or there is some poisoning that's happening. I need to know. So you will get to know what's in the system is wrong. And if it's a serious one in your judgment in the community that we are talking, then you know that that's a good solution. All the solutions that's possible, but as I said, getting excited too quickly to apply even without, then you might later realize that that value is too low. That is not a reason to build such a big technology to put it forward. So I think that's, I would say, is the starting point, and then come down from there. And then what's the minimum, let's say, nodes that we need to put it there, right? I mean, to solve that problem. How many such things, how big is it? So one is that coming down, but also what will happen, it is in the corporate world, people would also ask you to give a proposal. It's a process that's an iterative process. As it's happening, you are also asking, you can't eternally stay and talk to your CEO. You say, can you give me a report in 7 days? So on one hand, you will put your people to work on as you get a pulse, but you are buffering between the two. You're not connecting so quickly. If you can do that, that's fantastic, because you reach to the point to take these solutions to this, because now you believe that that is the solution. So I think bottom up, top down, both are required, but you can play some nice role, interestingly, in between. So that's what I would say. And the other thing is, not always which technology would solve the problem. That is where a community, either chat or other kinds of it, or conference attending, workshops, that gives an exposure that 10 different ways things are happening. Which one is best for me? Because even I don't know what technology would be right for me. So then that's an exposure thing. It'll be nice to go get some exposures, but exposures are exposures. You can't solve the problem, right? I mean, that's an exposure time. I think that's what I would say.
Thank you, Dr. Dey, for that very thoughtful response. I actually had a corollary to this question.
Yes.
I think with the current trend on everything AI and especially Gen AI, I think it seems to be that, like a one-size-fits-all type of a scenario where I think customers are also asking for, or prospects are asking for use cases in AI on a frequent basis. So sometimes one tends to feel that there is a lot of AI washing also, which tends to happen both from the supply as well as the demand side. Right. So how do you kind of address that?
It's a
from
little
your
bit
perspective?
of frictions. Again, I think questioning is always helpful. Then at some point they will stop and say, I don't know, you figure it out. Then you figure it out and you don't go full hog. So you have the liberty to go less because he also doesn't know or she doesn't know. It's anything, any technology that comes, there is a period that is hyped up that all the people are trying to use it. But eventually people know this technology is not for these purposes and it's well suited for this. I'll just give an example. For example, ultra wideband technology came, and if you go back, you'll see 2003, 4, even lots of research papers, books written as if it was getting launched then. And sometimes the computation issue, even with AI, Gen AI, the computation issue, same thing happened in ultra wideband. It was not sufficient, and even technology cases. But it has now come back with all of those thought process, and now it's getting utilized in car key or remote car keys and things like that. So tech comes, so it's this 20 years, but sometimes we are harsh to say that, suppose 2003 you needed to judge, people have written books, and then somebody will wash it away and say that, oh, that's not a technology, that doesn't work. But it's not like that. Everything has its own time. Even for that matter, AI, I mean, 60s and 70s, it's there. I don't know how many AI winters have passed by. And it can come back. So never is never. And then it has its time, and we should again focus on if it's an LLM versus I want to do an SLM, short language model, small language model, and localized one, customized one. So I think there's no hard and fast rule, just have to go through that iterations and hopefully stay grounded. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. B. Thank you, Supriya.
Thank you, Jayanti. Vijay, you want to ask the question?
Yeah. Hi. So I had this topic in mind for the startups where it's kind of ed tech, So there, I think it's mostly a culmination of different kind of topics that we will have to choose, So there, how do we really define, the kind of technology we will have to use, and for each topic that we want to cover in tech, right? So it might need its own path and penetration. It might be very wide. So can you please hint us on how do you stop and where do you stop,
Yeah.
in terms of, yeah.
No, again, these are difficult exercises, and that's where I believe is there. Now, 2-3 ways to do, and not everything has to be a proof of concept fully implemented. But let's just take an ed tech, and you put the full LLM just as a concept, right? I want to use fully. Now people would see that it's an overkill because the technology, see, 2 ways to analyze. I would say that if you're building a technology and that's taking your memory, your power, your things, and what fraction of it are you then utilizing in this?
Okay.
So that actually tells there is merit in it, but I can't incorporate that way. It's impossible. Unless you put it on cloud and API calls, that's fine. But suppose you want to do an embedded system, like all of these Gen AI and even AIs that are coming, people are talking about on-device AI. Now, if you want to do on-device AI, you have restrictions. You will be knowing exactly anything that you put, and it's not adding a value in a code. It's never going through data that is not an adding value. Then effectively you need to chop it off. So you could start like a bigger as a prototype, assuming I need, and that's an easy way to integrate and see the power, what am I needing, and then do some kind of assessment metrics, what fraction, what memory, what return, what value, and things like that. Then you know, okay, only that part I need to do, and I can do that by a small language model in that case, instead of this, and I can put it. So any technology, I think, take it and slice it to see its real ramifications into the product.
And I think the way you suggested during the POC stage, we shouldn't be stingy, but rather be open. But later you assess, and then only if you find a potential customer or whatever it could be, then move it ahead. Okay. Yeah. Great.
You cannot start with a right form factor and in a new topics and say I'll fit into the mobile. If it's a laptop, but eventually you'll put it into mobile, that's perfectly fine to start to explore and then absorb it into the product.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Love the question. Any more questions?
So,
Yes.
yeah, hi, Supriya. So, Dr. Day, thank you so much. Wonderful session. Lots to learn. I had one question, though, and what I increasingly realize is that in the current world, where you rightly stated that there is a lot of changes which is happening in terms of technology innovation, in terms of the problem landscape shifting, right? And then whole new problems thrown at you, including sustainability, which we probably never thought of about 20 years back, right? So the CEOs are, I suppose, facing an increasing level of challenge, especially with the competition in the market or the industry or the segments that they play in, right? So how do you suggest that, given all of this dynamic environment around, CEOs can take the advantage of of this, right? Find opportunities in these problems and stay ahead of the competition in generating value for the customers or consumers?
No, it's a lovely question. I think one thing I would say is simply, if it is anything that you are trying to do, like you talked about sustainability for that matter, for example, same thing, probably we do communication systems, but can I do the same thing with a lesser power, right? I mean, obviously engineers will strive to do that, and definitely if they find a method, that is perfectly fine. But in that case, I think CEO's mind is, if you are, it's always a trade-off, right? What cost you're paying for what to let go and what to achieve. If you have to incur a lot of cost in incorporating certain things, even if the technology is ready. So two things. One, is the technology available or you need to do a lot of work? The second is, tech is ready, but how costly it is for me to incorporate this, right? So this ROI will come in mind, and that's CEO's job to see that, yeah, I put a sensor in my smartphone. I can give an example. We put an ultrasound sensors in S6, and it was nice because, not so effectively to be able to see even ultraviolet sensors. Sorry, I meant UV sensor. We put it in S6. We thought, people are going out into the sun, and I can tell them what SPF lotion you can apply and things like that, right? So it's nice, but it's nice. What's the cost of that sensor, and can I do it? In fact, one of our innovation is that I could not afford. It's an interesting feature, but it's a low value in that sense. It has its value when it's really hot and things like that. I mean, some people will use it, but not for everybody. So can I afford a sensor for everybody to add it and charge a price, and only few of them will eventually use? So we got rid of it. But I thought, there's beautiful space that I'm getting rid of it, but some people would need it. So is there an indirect way of still giving them that UV sensor? And we had the light sensors, and we studied science, and we say that from the light itself, I can extrapolate infrared and ultraviolet. It won't be perfect, but it gives enough to give it. So we got rid of, and we still gave the value to the people who needs it. And it's my innovations and a couple of patents that comes, right?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for that great answer, Dr. Day. So, I think innovation and reducing the cost and passing on the value to the consumers and customers, right, is something which is key of beating the competition and probably venture into even new markets and industries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nitya. Pleasure.
Thank you, Nitya. Deepthi, do you have a question or a comment?
I just loved your the session actually, and I really liked your reference to Make in India, especially the BL where you develop the radar and so on. And I think the other thing that I really liked was your target for setting up the number of patents. Actually, I think that's an incredible attitude to bring into the organization in terms of the desire to innovate actually, and innovate at scale rather than just innovate for the sake of innovation. I mean, I've always been in the tech industry, so it's a little challenging for me to ask you another tech question. But one of the things that I've seen with many of my clients is their willingness to adopt technology. I think that's something which and the CEO may want the entire organization to be really tech savvy, leverage technology and so on, but it doesn't always happen. Anything that you have seen in your own experiences which have helped change
as I
this
said, if you bring tech first and it's not bringing value, we have seen that in blockchain. When you brought in, it's great for traceability, it's great for data sharing across partners and things like that. But it was an uphill battle to bring in because it's a significant change. See, some change are incremental in nature. You have made something and you can change that, right? I mean, it's a little bit of deltas. Some are fundamental in nature where you need multiple nodes. So blockchain technology change was a big, like, I don't know how many meetings and how many frustrations that nobody believes in it. And then we had to bring IBM being the best that time in the blockchain knowledge and their Hyperledger and many other technologies that are there around. It took time, but again, I think, our job is, if you are a leader, you have to be patient, and sometimes you get things fast and you should not lose the time. Sometimes, it's going to be honest to yourself, it's going to take next 1 year of your life to convince these CEOs and to do things. So it's part of it, and all are interesting in its own way, right?
In fact, I know I've been struggling to get one of the companies I work with to look at blockchain actually, and they say, "Ma'am, it doesn't happen, ma'am. It's not in not that." Or I said, "Look, even some of your products wanted to look at it, but they said it's too expensive, not worth it for us." So, yeah, but I completely relate to the blockchain example actually. So yeah.
I think at the end, it depends on what's the customer need, what actually they want to achieve, what is the problem. And the core value of this technology, even though we write 10 points of this can do this, but actually it gets adopted for a prime reason. Rest all would follow, right? So the prime reason, if it doesn't click and it's too expensive, then obviously it's hard to take it forward.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You should not feel bad, right? You should not feel bad. It's for a right reason if it has not been taken forward, right? Yeah, we continue to do things as a next step as tech leaders.
Yes.
But it goes someday. You can take it as a challenge to that I will get this someday in its own form. Right?
Yes. Kabhi to hoga.
Kabhi to hoga. In whichever form, right?
Yes. Thank you for that wonderful session.
Thank you, Deepthi. Thank you. Any other question, members? Ananta, over to you.
Yes. Alok Day, thank you. That was like very nice information. So like lot of things you spoke like AI, IoT, blockchain, 5G, 6G is like yet to come. and robotics. So like my question, right? You were there in Canada, Europe, and South Korea and India. So almost you have seen like a lot of like countries. So as an Indian, so like all these technologies put together, like where it has a great impact in Indian growth story, like which sector, or like as a consumer, or like in terms of job creation. Yeah. So I just want to know like your view in this area. Thank you.
I have chosen these 5 very carefully because I believe that they are currently needed. As I told, there are space technologies, there are quantum, there are other things that will come for the next generation leaders to take. But in our time, I think all these has its own space because they address different things. One is for long range communication, one is for short range, integrating sensors, AI is bringing intelligence. So they serve a purpose for them. Depending on which problem statement, they would be relevant. As I said, Apple Harvester, that's a robotic arms that can pluck. And it's very interesting, it's plucking like my first POCs that people have built. I'm working with CDAC, Kolkata, and the 3-4 universities. So it goes straight, for example, it plucks it perfectly. Computer vision, it sees apple, it goes straight, it plucks it. But alongside, it brings along the twigs, right? So it breaks the tree. Now I have to do a path planning separately to go on the side because there is a path. That part has not been done. It's like a job done, pluck it, but it's damaging the tree. So therefore, we have created a separate problem statement to go around and do it. So that's one. On the other hand, we have seen sensing. I just was there a couple of weeks back in one of these milk dairy, NDRI in Kalyani in West Bengal. And we went to see these cows and, effectively there is a disease by name mastitis. So the udders get inflated. And if it gets, so one is the cow is in pain, obviously, that's a problem. The second is when it gets mixed up in that milk, if you take in the naked eye, you can't even distinguish that there is a problem, and even otherwise. So it has to have a separate lab test to show because it also affects our body if you continue to take a mastitis affected cow's milk. Now, these are interesting problems, taking it to the level. And what I mean by problem solving, that's what I'm solving. Then I'm coming back and saying, okay, what sensors, what technology, what is existing, what is not, what is globally available, what can I build locally? If it's too expensive to bring from global, I'm still solving the problem today, but then we have put a new project to build the sensors in India. Right? So on one hand, we have to keep moving because we don't have it. Let's admit if we don't have it, but we are solving the problem. But at the same time, then we take it to the next step. So I would say, long story short, all of the technology, they serve a purpose. So I'm hesitant in choosing one versus other because in that context, that's most relevant. And AI, again, would play a bigger role because it is all pervasive in that sense.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. That's been an excellent conversation. Alok, oh my God, I love the answers. I almost feel like we've cracked it all. If there's anyone who watches this masterclass in the form of a fireside chat, they will be instantly 2-minute CEO ready, and they would know all that they need to know on technology. Hire a CTO, respect the CIO for the value the role brings in. Make sure you have a technology mindset. Make sure you have the capability in your team. Depending on which industry where you are, either lead by example or make sure that, be cautious in the overuse. And above all, what resonates is enjoy the journey. Make technology learning is fun. Soak in the ecosystem, get exposure to as many technologies, be patient. Oh my God, the learnings are immense. Be patient. It may take some technologies for a little bit more time to ripen and see the impact later. And overall in the life of a CEO, the goals don't change, the impact doesn't change. but technology becomes a significant enabler and a competitive differentiator and an advantage. And of course, at all times, be a great human being. Respect, respect, respect. Include, include, include. And I think be as a wonderful example of seeing Dr. AlokNath Day, and continue to revel and be inspired in this masterclass. And members, thank you so much for asking wonderful questions and soaking in the learning. Alok, over to you for your final comments.
No, thanks for hosting. And it has been wonderful interactions, a lot of interesting questions. And I'm sure the video will be there and we can keep talking. And you summarized so nicely. I was just thinking, did I speak too much in 1.5 hours? It took you 3 minutes to summarize so nicely. So thank you again for bringing me in, and interesting exercise together.
Thank you so much. You spoke very little. We would love to bring you again in some of the follow-on series. But thank you so much, Alok. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for logging in and enjoying this. We will be posting it online. Stay tuned on the Bagggel Foundation LinkedIn handle, and you will soon hear from us. Have a wonderful evening, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Yes.